Welcome to the Sunday setup here with Jeremy Ritz. Courage pays better than fear trading, getting you ready for what should be a very bullish week in the markets, or at least that's what seasonality says. Don't forget, we are going to have a shortened trading day on Christmas Eve, shutting down at 1 p.m. Christmas Day will be closed, and then we'll open back up that Friday. But here's the thing, seasonality says this is a very bullish week, but what did the chart say? Let's get into that. Some good setups for this week, and let's crush it.
The river's wild, the fix is melting.
Data this week, not much really to speak about. When we come over to Tuesday, December 23rd, we can see we are going to get durable goods orders month over month. We're getting GDP, so that is going to provide some movement to the markets. Wednesday, we will get initial jobless claims, but you could see that the rest of the week, there's not much there. And in terms of earnings, there's not much there either. So we know that this is more than likely going to be a low volume trading week, similar to what happened during Thanksgiving trading. From a seasonality perspective, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday of this week do have bullish seasonality, meaning that the market tends to move on these days. So just be prepared for that. Be ready for the Santa Claus rally. Again, the last 5 trading days of December, the first 2 of January. But what are the charts saying? So we know that we had quad witching day, OpX on Friday. So there were massive volume spikes that we see across the board here on the charts. We definitely see that here on the SPX. But I do like this candle close. We've closed above the 10-day exponential moving average and the 20, which we're serving as resistance. And right now we could see that we have the point of control in this large volume node here at 68.4582, holding this back from continuing to push up and take out this all-time high, which is just a little over 6,900 and change. So more than likely what we're going to do, we're going to come flirt with those all-time highs, maybe a little chop, and then blast through, hit that 7,000 mark into the end of the year. It's possible, but that uptick in bullish volume, the fact that we've reclaimed all the moving averages, does bode well for an end of year rally. We just have to see if the bulls can hold on to it. Coming over here to the QQQs, the Qs, as we affectionately call it, we can see this double top structure is still in play. We do have a gap fill that still has to happen at 630.06. We did have a nice close above all the moving averages yesterday. Thin volume up here to the point of control at 621.87. Decent bull volume came in here on Friday. And honestly, if the SPX is going to hit 7,000 and a new all-time high by the end of the year, the Qs have to get going. They've been lagging a little bit. So they nearly came down and retested that 100 this week before getting a little bit of love. And so again, we want to watch that POC and see if we can get that gap fill. If that happens, it can make a climb into the end of the year. Bitcoin continues to be Bitcoin, just doing a whole lot of nothing, ranging, moving sideways. We still are respecting the higher lows, but barely here recently. This one was made on December 1st. We've been trying to come down below it, but buyers have stepped back in. But you could see it is struggling to get above that 10-day exponential moving average with any strength. And that's why we're just moving sideways. So more than likely, this is just going to be a chop and slop fest over the next few weeks until we get into 2026. And then let's see if we'll get to see a bit of a push here on Bitcoin, other crypto spaces, because it just can't hold any type of strength. What we want to watch is a close above the 10, a close above the 20. And if this is really going to get moving, we could see that closing above that 50 would secure this volume node here on the VRVP. And there's nothing really to hold this back from at least running up to 100 into 103,000. But for now, Bitcoin just continues to be a snoozer. Dow Jones Industrial, we could see here, pushed a new all-time high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red candles in a row. We got a little bit of buying that came in on Friday. Decent bull volume, but it's just stuck there. Nice little retest after pushing to new all-time highs. And if we see the Q start to go, we might see a little bit more weakness in the Dow Jones Industrial. Let's see if it wants to retest that 50 and then push out from there. And the same thing with IWM. Again, if the Qs are going to push and rally, then that might mean that the IWM has to cool off for a little bit. Let's see if that wants to retest its 50 and push back up. But we did see 5 sell down days on the IWM after those all-time highs. You could see the volume that came in here. You had a nice green day above the 10. Let's see if that wants to push or if it'll shift over to the Qs in big tech. The head and shoulders pattern is still in place on TLT, and it looks like it wants to come lower. There's absolutely nothing to hold this thing up. So 10-year goes up. Let's see if that wants to continue to happen. And then we look at the US dollar. It does look like a head and shoulders pattern is forming here. We are below all of those moving averages. It looks like it wants to come down. Again, a weaker dollar is something that is positive for stocks. Now, this is an interesting chart here on gold because notice that we made a new all-time high, but how these candles are becoming very small bodied. You have upper wicks. You can see the volumes declined. It's not as big as it was when it was making these all-time highs back here. And it could be ready for a correction or a dip. Notice too, that even though it made new all-time highs, it's not as overbought as it was back here on the RSI. It looks like the momentum is starting to wane on the MACD. So be on the lookout for a drop in gold, and let's see if that money pushes over into crypto and the Bitcoin. We've been talking about that for a while. It hasn't happened, but potentially that chart says that a top might be in on gold. Then here's the VIX. The VIX dropped pretty significantly here on Friday. We're back down to lows where we were on December 11th, not that long ago, but it can come lower. You could see that when we hit those new all-time highs in September and in August, we were down to around 1422. So there definitely is more room to the downside. It can come even lower than that. We can see that July of 2024, it was down to 10. So keep an eye on the VIX. Nice little drop down. Let's see if it wants to spike or if it is going to chill out for now. And then let's jump over into the big boys, the Mag 10, Broadcom, double top, bang, came down, sold down, found a little bit of traction here on the 100, is below it, but you have the point of control, the VRVP nodes just standing in the way in terms of a bit of resistance. Can this one come lower? It definitely can, and you have a gap to fill down here at 308.76, but you also have one up here at 394.37. So which side are you on? Which one fills first, the earnings gap or this upwards gap from where we gap down on earnings? More than likely, it'll be this gap here from September 4th that will fill first because this gap was just made. So this one will be fun to watch here over the next couple of weeks. Netflix just continues to hang out below the 200. This looks like a little bit of a bear flag for me, even though you saw nice bull volume come in here on Friday. Lots of resistance overhead here with the volume nodes. Let's see if this one wants to drop down, but still hasn't shifted for a play. Double bottom here on Microsoft. We talked about this pattern potentially coming into play last week. It did. Double bottom right on that 200 simple moving average on the daily. We're watching that neckline here around 492.06. If it can get above that, you can see it has close resistance at 499 and also 507, but above that, when it gets above the point of control, it does have room. So keep an eye on Microsoft as a potential mover here in this bullish week of December. And with Amazon, you can see that the price is pinned between three moving averages, the 50, the 100, the 10. It is squeezing it. These upper wicks coming in at the top. It is going to get a move because it's being compressed. Which way is it going to shoot out of here? You can see that it could go either way, but the path of least resistance, if you get over 230.78, this thing can run all the way up to 245. So we are watching Amazon. I really like this chart. It's going to squeeze and pop out of here. When look at this volume. Keep an eye on Amazon this week. That one gets me fired up. Apple broke down below its supportive trend line, came down and tested the 50 simple moving average, and this volume node here on the VRVP will bounce out of here. It is at a decent support. It's going to need to reclaim this trend line, or it's going to serve as a resistance and knock it back down. If it does come above that, what we'd like to see is something like this, retest it and then go higher. I still believe Apple will hit 300 before they cool it off and shift into something else. Google came down and filled this gap from November 21st. You can see that happen right there. Was that enough to continue to push this up, or does this want to come down to the 50? We're watching to see what happens. You do have a large volume node on the VRVP and the point of control, but that move to the downside to grab liquidity at that gap is potentially a good thing for the bulls. And Meta, you can see that every time we get into this area right here, that we get rejected. And we also tested that 100 and got rejected. But notice all of the major volume nodes on the VRVP are right below or right where the price action currently is. And why I'm pointing this out is because if this can get a catalyst or a move, this one could rocket ship. It might be setting up for that 2026 story. So just keep an eye on this one as we move further into the rest of the year. And then you take a look at Tesla here, new all-time high made on December 17th. It's moving sideways. Let's see if this is just building pressure to hit 500. Quite possibly that is the case, but keep in mind and know that they won't run NVIDIA and Tesla at the same time. So in order for NVIDIA to run, we need to see Tesla pop off one more time. And then when it cools, that money will rotate over here into NVIDIA. And let's take a look at NVIDIA, just still moving sideways in that range after pushing up and hitting all-time highs here on October 29th. Of around $212.20. It is back above its 10-day exponential moving average, but you have the 150 overhead along with the point of control and those large volume nodes. So we're going to need to see a rotation back into this from some of those high flyers like Google and Tesla. And if that can happen, then NVIDIA will lead the rally in the new year. Nice bull volume that came in here on Friday. So good stuff. And then just a couple other charts outside the Mag 10 while we wrap up this video. We could see that ROKU finally got the close above $108, which I said was something to pay attention to. And if that could happen, it could really run. But look, we are moving sideways up here. We are sitting on the point of control. We have all those major VRVP nodes below us. This one could really get moving, and I'm watching 140 eventually over the period of 1 month to 2 months. If that can potentially happen, I really like this chart a lot. And let's just take a look at 2 more and let's wrap this one up. I do want to look at MU because this had such a nice move off of earnings. You could see that this had sold down there significantly, found support on the 50, and then you had that nice gap up the next day. It went up to 263.50. It retraced, but then Friday you had a nice candle that came in here and it made another new all-time high, 268.19. Nice volume. And then let's take a look at one more and wrap this up because I know everybody here on the channel is a huge SOUN fan. So that's what we're going to shut this one down with. Again, we did have a supportive trend line that was holding in there for quite some time, but that was given up and it broke down. But you could see that we are just moving sideways in a range here from about 1031 to about 1311. And you can see that the price did the same thing here in previous history. So what do we need to see in order for this one to get going again? We need to see more high beta names picking up. We got to close above that 10-day exponential average and in fact get above that 200. Once that happens, you will have a little bit of a double bottom support pattern here. And then from there, you want to watch the 50 and the 100 around 1448. And once it clears those, it does have lots of space. And SOUN has shown us before that it can move very fast in a very short period of time. But we need to see interest pick up on this thing because the volume is just terrible. It's not doing much of anything. So let's see if that one can happen this week. You are now ready. The Sunday setup is complete here for December 21st. It's going to be a fun week. This typically is a super bullish week. And on behalf of Courage Pays Better Than Fear Trading, I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays. I thank you so much for your support of the channel, and I hope it is a very green Christmas for all of you. Go crush the markets. Let me know what you think of the setups, anything that you're watching down below in the comments, and I'll see you next week, guys. Take care.
The fix is melting. Crocodile smile, we're burning down.